Cool. Hey guys, hey guys. Hey. I'm in my bathroom. Gonna do my makeup. So hey Jason, you go live in an hour, right? So I'm gonna do my live and then you can do your live. Sound good? So I just got off the phone with Jessica. I was talking to her for a little bit. Good conversation. And she got me to thinking about the lengths that us addicts will go to get our drugs of choice, or the lengths that we'll go to because of our addiction, like how far down we've gone. And I know that for all of us, because we're all so different, that how far down you go is really just, it depends on the person, and it doesn't make one person like worse than the other, because like I said, everyone is different, you know what I'm saying? But me and Jessica are so different. She is, you know, we were talking and she says, yeah, I haven't been down to that point in my addiction, you know? And so when we're talking, she can't, it's kind of hard to understand, like, wow, how could you do that because of drugs, you know? So I wanted to talk to you guys about that, because I think that's what's happening with us on this channel. A lot of us have been really far down in our addictions. And then there's some of us who haven't gone that far down, and there's a gap between the two. And I kind of wanted to talk about how for my drug and what took me down there. So that way, for those of you who maybe didn't go that far down, maybe you guys can see where, even though you didn't go as far as I did in the negative behaviors, maybe you can see where, if you had kept going, where your addiction would have taken you. You feel me? So I want to start out by saying that I started using drugs and alcohol when I was 17 years old. Okay? I am 36 years old, you guys. And I didn't get sober until I was 32. Okay? So 32, from 17 to 32, I was in active addiction. How long is that? Do we have any mathematicians over here? So from the age of 17 till the age of 32, I was in active addiction, minus a year I was in prison. Okay? So I want to share with you guys how it started out. For those of you who maybe don't know my story and want to hear a little bit about it, this is your chance. So here, present and accounted for 15 years, girlfriend. Thank you, girlfriend. And of course, like starting out at 17, I didn't progress into like full-blown addiction right away. But from 17 to 18 were my like experimental years. My years where I was, you know, taking pain pills because I got prescribed them when I got my tooth pulled, right? And I remember that. And then my mom had gotten prescribed some Percocet because she had had her wisdom teeth pulled. So I found those and took all those. And my parents, you know, they had all their medicine put up real high in the medicine cabinet. My parents never took anything like illegal. They are not on any mental health meds. They're not on any, you know, anything like that. My dad actually took insulin shots. He had syringes in the house, but they were for his insulin. So at 17 years old, I started hanging out with my new boyfriend. I started dating this guy named Robert. Let me tell you all about Robert. Robert was tall, dark, and handsome. He was a white boy, but he had tan skin like I do, and the greenest eyes you have ever seen. Robert was an artist. He went to the school that was in the city, and I went to a country school, which it was still a big school, but it was out in the country. And he went to the inner city school. And he was 1 year older than me. So he was a junior and I was a sophomore, I think. Or vice versa. I was a junior and he was a senior. So when I started hanging out with Robert, he started taking me out with his friends who were a lot older than me. And he would take me and we would smoke pot. And that's how it all started. Smoking pot and drinking alcohol, you guys. So I remember smoking pot for the first time. I coughed so much. It was horrible. I hated it. But then the feeling kicked in. You know what I mean. That feeling when you're just like, chilling. That feeling kicked in and I was like, hey, this isn't too bad. And so that kicked in and I was like, well, I can deal with this. I can do this. This isn't that bad, you know? And so I would just started smoking pot with his buddies and him all the time. We would go to the fair and smoke pot and drink. We would go to the lake and smoke pot and drink. We would go to parties and smoke pot and drink. I mean, we were just pot heads. It got to the point where I started skipping school, right? Me and my best friend Jessica would skip school with my other friend Jerry. And we would skip school. And when we would get there, you guys, my sister would already be there, skipped school, right? And she'd be on the porch smoking. Now, I know you guys have heard this story. Me and my sister, Jessica and Jerry, would sit there and smoke on the back porch. And we would throw our weed seeds over the back porch. And about 7 years after that, after we grew up and moved out of the house, my dad found weed plants in the front yard that were knee high. And I remember him calling me and being like, what the hell? He was pissed, y'all. So we would skip school and just smoke, you know, and kick it. Just kick it. That's all. But there's no harm in that, right? Right? So that's how it all began. I wanted so badly, you guys, to fit in at school and kind of be popular. I don't know why I wanted to be popular so bad, but I did. So I became a cheerleader and a dance team member. And I really loved doing that. Like, it made me so happy to dance. I would dance all the time. And I got really, really, really good at it, right? And so the more I did that, the more people started kind of noticing me. I started like really coming into my own as a teenager. I started, you know, my boobies were getting bigger and my booty was getting nice and I was getting muscle and I was just growing up and looking fine, right? And so Robert was kind of like, hey, you know, my girlfriend's on the cheer team and she's kind of cool at her school, and he was kind of like a skater boy. And it was cool because he was a skater boy and I loved hanging out with all him and his skater boy friends, you know? So school was pretty good for me until my junior and senior year. My junior and senior year, you guys, I got so like into partying with Robert and all his friends that I kind of just started fucking school off. And I started flunking out. Hey, Cece. I started failing out of school because all I cared about was smoking pot and drinking and partying on the weekends. My parents were starting to notice that I was partying more than I was, you know, being a kid. And they started to ground me to where I couldn't go and do things with my friends. And first of all, I don't know if you guys know, but my parents were so awesome. They were good parents, but me and my sister, we would work together to get out of the house without my parents finding out. And we would sneak out and still go out and do whatever we wanted to do. And it's so sad because I'm ashamed because my parents, they were good parents, you guys. And I was misbehaving. So I hit this like really rebellious stage where I just started, you know, saying fuck it and doing whatever I wanted. I wouldn't come home at night. I would run away and stay at people's houses and not come home, and my mom would be worried sick about me. But then I would come back home and we would make, you know, a truce, or my mom would say, you know, Nicole, I love you. I'm just concerned for you. You're getting to that age where you're almost 18 and you're going to be able to do and make decisions that you want to make, you know? And I just want you to make the best decisions. And my mom tried, you guys, to guide me and direct me in the right direction. But I didn't want to be guided. I didn't want to go in the right direction. I had already gotten into the drug scene and the party scene, and it was already taking hold. At 17 years old, I was already beginning to become I was already an addict. I was more interested in smoking and drinking than I was in doing school, you know? And so my parents tried to help me, but I was bucking. And my parents, you know, there was 3 of us girls. There was my sister Michelle, who was going through mental problems, and she had been put in a mental home for about 6 months. And so our family was really going through a hard time. You know what I mean? Like, we were all trying to just make it. So when my 18th birthday came around, my mom and dad kind of gave me an ultimatum, right? And the singer is my sister, who is a lesbian, and she's never been in trouble. She doesn't have any mental problems or anything. My middle sister is the one who really struggles with her mental health. She has bipolar, manic depressive, antisocial personality disorder, something defiance disorder, all these different kind of things that really prohibited her from doing, like, she just struggled, you guys. And that was my sister that I ran hard with. Like, we would do drugs together. And so now she's sober, thank goodness. And all of us are doing so well now, you know. And I think that, you know, for my parents, it's just been like a hard time watching me and my sisters struggle through life because of the bad choices we made. But my parents, they just got to a point where they were like, you know, we cannot make the choices for you, and you're going to do what you want to do, but you're not going to do it here. So when I graduated high school, about a year and a half after I graduated, so I was probably 19, I moved out. I moved out and I started living on my own with different friends. I think I roommated up with a couple friends, and then I got my own spot. I got my own little trailer house with my boyfriend at the time. Now, or you know what? Let me think. Hold on. Back up. Me and Robert broke up when I was 21. Okay, so we've been together from the time I was 17 till 21. When we broke up, I met LD right after that, and that's when I got my own place. Okay, so I was still living with mom and dad, but I would come and go as I pleased. I would leave, and don't get me wrong, they weren't cool with it. Like, I was getting in trouble. I would not show up. I would stay out all night. And this is going on till I was about 21. And my parents are just trying so hard to get me to act right, you guys. And I'm like doing everything they tell me not to do. So they put up with me for many years of doing all this, right? And finally, they kicked me out. So I was probably about 20 or 21 when my parents kicked me out. They kicked me out. I failed out of college. I got kicked out. I had a job. I was working for JCPenney at the time. I lost my job at JCPenney because I was being a little, that's conceal, that is ColourPop no filter concealer. So I get kicked out and I lose my job at JCPenney because I'm doing criminal activities up there. By the time I get kicked out, you guys, I am doing cocaine and drinking, smoking. Like, I'm doing everything. I'm staying at people's houses who are way older than me. And my parents are just worried sick, you guys. Worried sick because I was going down the wrong road. Like, I had been going down the wrong road, but I was getting real bad now. My drug addiction had really, really, really gotten worse. I was using multiple substances. I was using methamphetamine and cocaine and Xanax. And I was just really getting to the point where I was dependent on bars of Xanax to go to sleep at night because I was always fucking high. And so, I mean, that's how fast it happened for me, you guys. Like, from the time I was 17 till the time I was 21, by that time, I was a full-blown addict. I was smoking meth, doing hot rails of meth, staying out all night. And that's when my parents were like, you got to go, you know. And that's when my parents kicked me out, you guys, that's when shit started getting for real for me. And again, like, my parents were like, you need to get sober, Nicole. You need to change your life. You need to stop doing these things. They're only going to... My dad would always tell me, like, no, I didn't start shooting methamphetamine until I was about 24 or 25. So it was still a couple of years into it. Yeah, I didn't start that early. But from the time I was 21 till the time I was about 24 or 25, I was hanging out with all these people who were shooting meth. And so it took me about 4 years of watching them do that to get curious enough that I was like, yo, I want to try that, you know? And I had gotten a job working at this place called Shoe Carnival selling shoes. And that's the thing, you guys, like, during my addiction, like, I usually had a really good job and I would work my ass off. But I was so erratic, and I was so just like up and down because I was so high or not high, or high or not high. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, my emotions and the way I was at work, you could never tell which Nicole was going to come in. Was it going to be Nicole that was sober, or was it going to be Nicole that had been partying all week? So every job that I got, I would eventually lose because I was so all over the place. So I kept that job at Shoe Carnival for about 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And I say lose, I mean, like, I would lose my jobs after being there for years. I lost that job because I was just so fucked up on meth. I would come in there and I would be high, and I would be, one time I remember going into Shoe Carnival and thinking I couldn't breathe. So I'm hyperventilating in the middle of my job because I'm high on methamphetamine and I think I can't breathe. So I made my fucking coworkers call 911. And this is how it would happen. Like, I was always so fucked up that I would go around people like that. And then I would start freaking out and make them call the ambulance. Y'all, when I tell you, when I filed bankruptcy, because I had so many hospital bills and so many credit card bills, because I would go to the goddamn hospital because I would think my ass was dying. If LD was still alive, I would have him on the show and he could tell you stories about him having to call 911 because I thought I was dying. It's embarrassing to say that. It would be like I would be so high, yeah, like panic attacks. I would be so high and my heartbeat would be going so fast that I would start freaking myself out, and then I would go into a full-blown panic attack. But it would always start out with my mind. Like, I would be fine. And then I would start panicking and go into, like, full-blown fucking craziness, you guys. Craziness. And that happened. That's why a lot of my friends stopped hanging out with me. They didn't want to be around me because I was so fucking crazy. And I was so damn messed up all the time that they couldn't hang out with me without having to worry about the cops coming, because I would call the damn cops on myself. And this is before it even got bad, or bad to me. So, I lost the job at Shoe Carnival, and that's when I started working for the revenue office. And I know all you guys have seen the video that the trolls made about me in the revenue office. I started working at the revenue office, which is the Department of Motor Vehicles, okay? And I worked there for 6 or 7 years. Can't really remember. Like from 2001 to 2005. 2001 till 2007, I guess you say. It's something like that. About 5 or 6 years. It's hard to remember all this shit, you guys. So, I worked there for, like I said, about 7 years. And I loved that job. I was good at it. I was a hard worker. But I ended up losing that job and getting in a lot of trouble there. So, because I was using drugs and just doing stuff. I'm just being crazy, y'all. Same situation, just like my other jobs that I would lose. I would lose them because of my drug addiction, because of things that I did as a result of my drug addiction. So, okay, Siren, love you, girl. I had like a huge, yeah, we'll have a meeting today. I had a huge kind of like friendship and family with the people that worked there. And they loved me, but they knew that I needed help. So they ended up firing me. And when I got fired from that job, you guys, that's when everything hit the fan for real. Because when I got fired from that job, then guess what happened? My boyfriend broke up with me. LD broke up with me. Well, because I didn't have any money anymore, you know? And so he kicked me to the curb, and then I really lost my shit. So when he broke up with me, I didn't know what to do. I was homeless. I was strung out on methamphetamines, and you know those wafers of methadone? I would take those damn wafers of methadone every day, 40 milligrams of methadone a day. So I was really strung out, you guys. So he kicked me out, or he left, and I didn't want to stay there anymore. So I fucking packed up the whole trailer house and left and went and moved in with my friends. Okay, so when I moved in with my friends, it was fucking crazy because now I'm living with Jeremy and Nicole. R.I.P. Jeremy. And we are all strung out. We're smoking crack. We are smoking meth. We are taking copious amounts of ecstasy. We are just strung the fuck out, you guys. And shit's getting bad because, first of all, when you got 3 drug addicts who are living together, you can't trust each other. So they're robbing me, I'm robbing them, vice versa. We're stealing each other's shit. It's getting bad. So I was like, you know, I gotta get a job. I can't just freaking not have a job because I gotta get my drugs, you know? I gotta get my drugs. So I got a job working for Sonic, and I got a job working for a gas station. So I got 2 jobs. I'm living with Jeremy and Nicole. Her name was Nicole. And while I'm at my jobs, they're robbing me blind of everything I own. And vice versa. So finally, I was like, fuck this. I'm getting out of here. Y'all are stealing my shit. I can't live here. And so I begged my mom and dad to let me move back in. Mom and dad let me move in for maybe a month. And I went to treatment. This was the first time I went to treatment. When I went into treatment, I was broken. I was destitute. I had nothing. I had just lost my best friend, Nikki. She had just committed suicide. I was afraid for my life because LD was fucking crazy and he used to beat my ass every day. So I was like, I need help. I'm going to go into treatment. So I went to treatment. I was there for 30 days. It was a great treatment center, you guys. One of the best here where I live. They actually let me come for free. The state paid for me to go because I didn't have insurance. And I thought, you know what? This is it. This is it. I am going to change my life and I'm going to get sober, right? And I'm about 24, 25. I haven't shot up yet. So, you know, I'm still savable, right? Or I think I think there's a chance. There's a chance for me still. So I go through the program there, and when I get out, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do something different this time. I'm gonna stay sober. I'm gonna get a sponsor, and I'm gonna go to meetings. So that's what I did. I got a sponsor. I started working steps. Her name was Candace, real nice girl, and we started spending time together. I'd go over to her house and spend the night. We would do our 4th step. It was just a good friendship. And then I relapsed. I relapsed on methadone. I was hanging out with them. Here's the thing. I never stopped hanging out with my drug buddies. So I relapsed and I moved out of my mom and dad's house because when I relapsed, they were like, oh, hell no. And I went straight back to, you know, doing dope. And I moved in with my friend Nate. Okay, so Nate was a dope cook. He cooked methamphetamine, and I lived with him for about 6 months, you guys. And it was when I lived with him that I tried shooting up for the first time. And I'll tell y'all that story real fast. So, for about 6 months, I watched everybody there go back to the back bedroom while I was in the living room smoking dope. And I would watch them, you know, go back to the back bedroom, then come back out and be so high, right? And I didn't, for some reason, I don't know. I never even thought about like, oh, they're shooting up. Because I never, as a drug addict, you guys, that was one of the things like, I was like, I'll never do that. Because once you shoot up, you're never going to go back, right? And so I just had like, I just never even thought about it. Well, one night, I had been up for about probably 7 or 8 days straight, and it was just like a crazy night, right? A crazy night. Me and my friend Tammy, she stayed there too. We were just high as fuck, you know. Me and her would hook up with each other and just be like, you know, we were dating. Me and her were fuck and all kinds of craziness. I really liked her. If I was going to be a lesbian, she would have been my girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? Like, we used to get down like that. And, one night, her and Nate came out of the room, and I was just like, yo, what's up? I want to do that. Like, I want y'all to teach me how to do that. And they were like, no, we're not going to teach you how to do this. You don't want to do this. Once you get on the needle, you'll never stop. And I was like, I don't care. Like, I want to try it. Y'all are doing it, you know, like, why can't I do it? It was almost like I wanted to be in the club. You guys, this was the worst, this was the biggest mistake I ever made, was shooting up. Well, they did it, I did it, and I watched her stir it up and mix it together. And any of you that's ever shot methamphetamine, then you know what's up. When somebody mixes up a shot of meth and they pull it up in the syringe and then they tip it over and the bubble goes real slow, it's because the shot is thick, like maple syrup thick. And it was 40 units, so about that much in the syringe. And it was thick. And he did it. She shot me up for the first time in my arm, right here. And holy shit. That's all I got to say about that. And I never stopped shooting up after that. After that one night, after that night, I tried to get that feeling over and over and over again. Sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't. It's not like a heroin feeling. It's not like the warm blanket coming all over you. The high from shooting meth or cocaine is so intense. It is so intense that if you're a man, your penis will get hard. And if you're a woman, you will fucking, y'all know the tea. I know, Cece, okay, then you know what I'm talking about. And it will make you, I mean, fuck having sex. Fuck having sex. I got the needle now. I don't need no dick. Okay, that's how it was for me. It was so addicting. It was so, the feeling that it gave me was like nothing I've ever felt before. Yeah, you do. You do. And that's what happens to a lot of females that get on the needle. That's why we get hooked off on the first time. And dudes know that. I don't know if it's the same feeling for dudes. I'm imagining it is. But guys know that. So a lot of girls that get hooked on the needle will get shot up by their boyfriends for the first time. And if you get shot up, you guys, you don't give a damn, okay? That's all you care about. All right? That's all you care about. So after that, I was hooked. I was hooked. I was hooked. I went out, got myself a little sunglass case, got myself some clean syringes. And what did y'all remember what I told you guys about my dad having to take insulin shots? Well, there they were right there. Free syringes. Got my syringes, got my cotton, got my alcohol wipes, and I was a regular old junkie. I had my little junkie case, okay? So it was off to the races after that. I was in love. I had found what I had been looking for all my life in the needle. 6 months after I started shooting meth, I got my first felony charge and got put on probation for 3 years. 6 months after the first time I shot dope. The needle will take you down through there so quick. So, after that, I tried to song and dance it. I tried to song and dance it on probation for a year. And of course, you know, they saw right through my bullshit. And they revoked me and I went to prison. I went to prison for a year. When I came out of prison, I paroled out to a halfway house here where I live now. And I had every intention of staying sober. I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. I really wanted to change my life. And have y'all noticed? Have y'all noticed? We're all the way through, halfway through my story, and I haven't even started doing opiates yet, really. I hadn't started shooting Roxy's yet. So I parole out to this halfway house, right? I'm living there. Life is good. I got 6 months on parole that I got to walk out without getting any charges, okay? So I get to work. I start walking out those 6 months. And if y'all know what I'm talking about, walking them out means not getting in trouble, staying out of trouble so that way you can get off paper. So I walked out those 6 months, and the day after I got off parole, guess what happened? I relapsed. I relapsed, and my counselor at the halfway house was like, girl, I know you want this. I know you can do this. And they put me into treatment. So they sent me to treatment, and of course, what did I do? I did great. You put me in a group of people, you put me in a situation where I got to act right, I'm fucking shining star over here. I can comply, right? I did great. I got to the top of the class. I was smart, knew my stuff, knew about the disease. I knew all about the disease, you guys, but I could not stay fucking sober. I graduate after 30 days. I go back to the halfway house. Now, mind you, the reason I'm not coming back to my family is because the county I was from banned me. I wasn't allowed to go back and live there. If I went back and lived there, my probation officer would revoke me and put me in prison. So I never moved back to where my family lives because I was banned. And my dad, you guys, was so ashamed because when I caught my charges, I made the front page of the newspaper because we had so much dope in the car. So much dope. So anyway, yeah, I wasn't allowed to go back. That's why. I could go back now, but yeah, much worse than a Twitter ban, girl. I wasn't allowed to go back to the county I was from. So I stayed here where I'm at now, and I got out of that treatment after I relapsed, and I got back on track, got a sponsor again, and started working the steps. Well, this time it started sticking. This time I was making progress. I actually got to 6 months. And then the halfway house was like, yo, you're doing really good, Nicole. We're gonna let you move into an apartment, your own apartment. And I was so excited, you guys. I was like, oh my God, my own apartment, you know? So I moved into my own apartment, which was right across the street, still connected to the halfway house, still part of the program, right? So that way I'm not too far away. I got a job working for Kroger, and I was really doing good. I got promoted to assistant manager of the deli bakery in about 5 months, and I was killing it, y'all. I was doing so good. I was going to my meetings. I actually became secretary of my home group, and I want y'all to know my home group was Cocaine Anonymous, and it was the best group of people I've ever been around. They were triple OGs. They knew what it was like to be down through there, and so I fit in just perfect, right? So I'm doing so good. I got promoted. I'm killing it at my job. Life is good, right? Well, I started having to take on a bunch more hours because I was the manager. That's what has to happen, right? So I started taking on a bunch more hours, and then I started stopping. I stopped calling my sponsor. I stopped going to my meetings, and I got complacent in my program. All right. So I relapsed. I relapsed this time on Roxy. And this was my first time I had ever done Roxy. I shot it up and I loved it. So I relapsed on Roxy, and instead of staying in the halfway house and disrespecting my counselor and everybody else there, I moved out with a girl named Tara. And you guys have heard Tara's name before because she is the person who actually called DHS on me. So I moved out with Tara, and we had a great friendship. Like, we get high all day long. I worked. She got disability. So it was a perfect little friendship. I'd come home, we'd get high. I'd go to work. She'd keep down the house. Then I'd come home, we'd get high. I mean, we had the best friendship, right? So we did this for about a year, and then I don't know what happened, you guys, but I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I think it was because I was smoking so much crack that I was losing my damn mind. All right. So I remember telling Tara, like, girl, I care about you. I love you, but I got to move out. Like, I got to get my own. I got to move out. I got to go get help, and I got to get treatment. So what did I do? I went to treatment again, same place. So they knew me. And this time I did really well. I was real serious, just like every other time, you guys. I came out, got out of the treatment, and I went back to the halfway house. Right, you know, because I had a good experience in the halfway house, and I thought, why don't I go back to where I know that I do well? So I went back to the halfway house, and this time it was different. This time I didn't want to be sober. This time all I could think about was how Roxy felt when I shot it up. This time the needle was calling me back. So I didn't even last a month, and I relapsed. And so by this time, it's 2012, you guys. All right? It's 2012, and I'm still working for Kroger. They hadn't fired me. Now, they've given me chance after chance. Now, I'm getting to the point where they're like, yo, this girl's got a problem, but we love her because she's a good worker. So they're still giving me chances, right? And 2012 comes, and I meet Neil, my husband. when I met Neil, it was like I had met my fucking soulmate. The night I met him, we got a hotel room, and he slept on one bed and I slept on the other bed, and we stayed up and we talked all night long. We talked about our families, we talked about our beliefs, we talked about marriage, we talked about everything that we believed in. And I remember leaving that hotel that night because he ended up taking me back to my friend's house. Or that next morning, he took me back to the friend's house that I was sleeping on their couch. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I like that dude. You know what I mean? I like that dude. So, but y'all know me. I was playing hard to get. So I said bye, went in my house, and he had my number. I told him to give me a call anytime he wanted to. And I thought, well, I'm not going to hear from him. You know, he's too good for me is what I thought. I said, you know, he's too good for me. He's got a job. He's got a life. His parents care about him. You know, he's just too good for me. Well, 2 days later, he called me and he said, hey, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. What are you doing? Here's what I said. Nothing. What took you so long to call me? And he laughed and I laughed. And then he said, do you want to get another hotel room, right? And I got offended and I was like, no. What do you think I am? You know what I mean? A hoochie mama? So he said, okay, let me take you out on a date. Okay. Now you guys got to remember, I hadn't been on a date since me and LD broke up, and LD never took me on a date. So I was like, I can do that. Let's go. Let's go on a date. So he picks me up, and I was actually babysitting the girls' kids that I lived with. And so I was like, we got to take these kids with us. And he was like, okay, well, we'll go to the park and stuff. So we went to the park, and we went to the big damn bridge, and we went walking on the river. We just had a great time, you guys. And I remember him, when we were walking, he put his arm around me. And I remember it feeling so perfect. It just felt like it belonged there. I'm serious, you guys. Like, don't laugh. This is for real. So we have never left each other's side since. And that was 2012. And we have been together ever since. So we both kind of figured out early on in our relationship that we both had a problem with drugs and alcohol. Neil kind of waited to show me that he had a real bad problem, but I didn't waste any time. I told him right away that I was a junkie, and that's when he shared with me that he was on methadone and that it was prescribed to him. And I was like, woo, jackpot. And so I was like, oh, really? You know, can I get some? And so he started sharing his methadone with me. And you know what happens when you share your methadone with people? The other person gets dependent on it. So I became just as dependent on the methadone as he was, you know. No, he wasn't a drunk, but when Neil would drink, he would get really, really crazy and emotional. So it just, he doesn't drink because of that. Like the way when he would drink, it would make him just weird, y'all. So, and I remember when we first started dating, he would drink and he would like get really angry and get really emotional. And I remember I told him, like, yo, you gotta leave me alone. Like, I don't want to see you ever again. Because one night he was just acting crazy, right? And I was like, whoa, this is too much. Like, I can't deal with this dude, right? He's not what I thought he was. So I told him, I said, I don't ever want to see you again. Leave me alone. Right? And so he leaves my apartment because I'm living with that girl. And in the middle of the night, he comes back. He comes back, my little chingity bop daddy. He comes back with a dozen roses and a letter. And he leaves it on the doorstep. And I went out and found it, and I read the letter, and I bawled my eyes out because he just told me that how much he loved me and that he couldn't believe this because he hadn't been with anybody since his wife and him got divorced. Yes, he had been married before me, and she cheated on him with his best friend. And I read the letter, and I thought, give him another chance, Nicole. Give him another chance. He's just like you. He's broken. He's broken, and he needs somebody. So I gave him another chance, and we've been together ever since. We never really broke up in the first place. It was like a day. And I remember talking to him about my ex-boyfriend and how my ex-boyfriend would beat me. And you guys, Neil, when I met him, he didn't treat me like a junkie. He treated me like a person. He opened the car door for me. He treated me like a princess. He was so kind. And I had never had anyone treat me so good. He didn't judge me because I was a junkie. He didn't judge me because I had the disease of addiction. He came from a good family. His family has not money, but they come from, they work hard for their stuff, and they have money saved up. You know what I mean? And they have more means to do things than my family does. And he was like I felt like he was a higher caliber person than I was, you know, but it really wasn't even that. It was that I had been in my active addiction for so long that I had just become, you know, I had become the people that I hung out with. I had become trashy, you know. And so when I met Neil, I thought, he's never going to give me the time of day. You know, he's better than I am. And he gave me a chance, and I've changed. Yeah, we're still together today. We actually just got married and got our marriage license and all that kind of stuff. But it was a process, you know, but he gave me a chance, you guys. And he treated me like a lady, not like a piece of shit. And yes, he had an addiction too. We were both addicted to opiates. And that's when my addiction to opiates really, really got bad, because we were both, you know, strung out on opiates. And after that, because, you know, I didn't get sober until 2015. After that, for 3 more years. Yeah. After that, for 3 more years, we abused drugs together. And it got really bad. And then I got pregnant. And so when I got pregnant, you guys, that's when everything kind of like, that's when shit hit the fan for me for real. That's when I knew that I knew I had a problem, because y'all see how many times I've been to rehab. But it was like, now I knew, like, I couldn't stop. I had a kid coming, you know, and I was still using. Oh gosh, I can't pop it up. And so I struggle, you know, with that, because I feel so much shame and guilt. And the reason I tell you guys that I used while I was pregnant is because I know I got to tell y'all. You know what I mean? Like, it just is what it is. I can't go back and change it. The only thing I can do now is become a better person and keep on doing the right thing. Keep on being a good mom to my son. And that's what I try to do now, you know. But me and Neil, we went downhill fast because we were both addicts, and we were both, you know, enabling each other. And it got worse and worse and worse. It never got better. His parents tried to help us. My parents tried to help us. His parents sent him to treatment. But he didn't want to be there. You know, Neil, I'm going to let him tell his story to you guys. He's going to come on my channel, and he's going to tell y'all his story. And See, the thing about it is, Jamie, the methadone, it got taken away from us. So I went cold turkey off of about 120 milligrams of methadone a day. So we went cold turkey together, and we stayed in bed for about 3 weeks. It felt like I had lost my job working for Kroger. I lost my job because I went in high on 7 or 8 Xanax bars and was fucking shit up. So they let me go, finally. And we were just living here with his parents. How is the withdrawal coming off of methadone, off of 120 milligrams? Let me tell you this, you guys. I've always been stronger than Neil when we were going through withdrawal. Like, he's always, like, so much worse than me. But I was shitting all over myself, throwing up, burping, like this disgusting smelling stuff. Like, it was like, if I did eat, which I didn't eat, if I did, though, try to eat, my food wouldn't digest into my stomach. And so it was like coming up rotten. I don't know how to explain it other than, like, that fucking shit fucked me up. So I came off of it. It took me about 2 weeks to feel like, not like shit, you know? Rotten eggs, yes. What is that smell? Why does it do that? And Neil, the restless leg dude, Neil would kick all night long, and then I would punch him in the back. Well, we were living with his family, and what would happen is we would go and get benzos, like Xanax and stuff, but we didn't have a bunch of money, so at the time, we had to, like, really tough it out and come off the opiates, and we would stay, I remember we stayed sober for, like, 30 days, you guys, and then we relapsed. And that was, like, what we would do. For the next 3 years, we would get sober and then relapse. Get sober and then relapse. Get sober and then relapse. And when I came off of the IV Roxy, it was not that bad. I went into detox, and it was really easy, actually. I went into detox, and it was good. Yeah, benzos, we would go get, like, a whole bunch of benzos from my drug dealer, and because we really were trying to come off the opiates, you know what I'm saying? But when I came off of opiates for the last time, so I got pregnant, I had my son, and everything we're trying to change we're trying to change our lives, right? I had Nate. We are trying so hard to stay sober. Neil has a job. He's working. We're living with his parents. We're all living here in this house, and we are really, really trying to do better, you guys. And then we relapsed. We relapsed, and we're hiding it from his family. We're hiding it from everyone. I've got Nathaniel. I'm trying to keep it together, but everybody knows that I'm relapsing on meth, right? And Roxy. So then my friend Tara calls DHS and reports me for neglecting my son. And they come to my house, and they come like 3 times, and I'm not answering the door because, first of all, I'm high and I don't know. I didn't even know they had came. And then finally, I get the letter that they leave on the door, and I called them, and that's when they told me that I needed to bring my son and come in to see them. So I called Neil at his work, and I said, listen, I've got to go up to DHS. They want me to come take a drug screen. So I drove up there, you guys. I took a drug screen, and I failed for opiates and benzodiazepines. And that's when they told me, listen, you've been reported for neglect. And I started crying, you guys. I knew the jig was up. And I knew exactly who reported me by what they told me that the person said. Because the person had said the same thing to me and told me, I'm going to call DHS on you. And I just ignored her, you know. Well, she did. And she didn't call them because she cared about me. She didn't call them because she was trying to help me. She called them because she was fucking pissed at me. But that's okay because it's all over and done now. She called them and that happened. Then they came over to my house and they drug screened Neil. And he also had opiates and benzos in his system. So they said, we're not going to take your kid, but we're going to put an order of protection in for him. And we want you guys to we want Nicole to go to treatment. And we want Neil to get involved in a recovery program. And so we're like, okay, we can do that. We can do that, you know? And I was like, you know what? It's okay. This was bound to happen. I'm glad. I was trying to make the best out of it. So I called Neil and I was like, we're going to do this, you know? And I started calling around to rehabs. And I found a rehab that would take me. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this. Well, then DHS shows up at my house the next day and tells me and Neil that they have to take Nate. They tell me that I need to pack him up some clothes. I need to pack all his stuff. And I need to bring him up to the DHS office and drop him off. My son is about to turn 2. No, he's about to turn 1. It is 2 days before his first birthday. And I thought, okay, this is happening. And I took him up there and I dropped him off with the people. And I said to the lady, take me to detox now. And my caseworker took me to detox. I didn't sleep at all for a week because all I could think about was Nathaniel. I knew I wanted to be sober for many, many years. That's why I went to treatment 5 fucking times. I knew I wanted to change my life for many years. I just couldn't. I went into treatment, and after I got out of detox, I went straight into 30-day rehab, okay? And I started feeling better, right? Things started looking up. I started feeling better. I gotta wash this pillowcase. That's when I started getting all these court dates, because whenever you get your kid taken away, you got to go to court like every month. And so it was the first month that he was gone, so I had to go to court a bunch. So I'm leaving the treatment center a lot. And I started getting triggered so hard, and I was so stressed out. So I started taking Xanax when I was leaving. Well, I took Xanax for about 2 weeks until they busted me. And that's when they called the Department of Human Services and told them, hey, this girl is still taking pills. She's breaking the rules. You know, what do y'all want us to do? Yeah? And they told me, you know, we're going to terminate your rights. And I was just like, I begged them, please don't. What? It's snowing? And I thought, they're going to terminate my rights. I begged them, please don't do it. Please don't do it. Give me one more chance. Give me a chance. I promise. I will not go back. I will change everything. I promise. And that's when they were like, okay, we're going to give you one more chance. And for the next 2 weeks, I rid hard. Like, I went hard for my recovery. And then I got out of treatment, and Neil picked me up, and I was crying because I wanted to go get high. All I could think about was opiates. And Neil was like, you're not going to get high. We're not doing that. And he said, we're going to get put on Suboxone. And that's when I went and got put on medically assisted treatment and told my caseworker. And she said, I think that's a great idea. And I worked my ass off for the next 6 months to get my son back. And I got Nate back. I got my case closed. And I've been doing that ever since. So that's my story. But I hope that kind of helps you guys. Oh my God, sorry. Because I had abused methadone, and I was so addicted to methadone. Like, every time I took it, also, I didn't want to be on methadone because it made my hair fall out. I left out a lot of information from my story, but when me and Neil were on it, I was taking it, and my hair literally fell out. I was taking copious amounts, you know, all the time, and my hair literally fell right out of my head. I had a huge bald spot on this side of my head, and I remember waking up, going to take a shower, and pulling this huge chunk of hair out of my head and started screaming in the bathroom. And Neil was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, my hair is falling out. And every person that I would show, it was a huge bald spot, smooth as a baby bottom. They were like, does he shave your head while you were sleeping? What happened? And I was like, no, my hair fell out. So after that, I was just like, And then with Suboxone, for me, when I first got on it, it was like, I knew that it was a lot harder to abuse. You know what I mean? I knew. Are you looking outside in the snow? I knew that I couldn't, like, get high on Suboxone. You know what I'm saying? And for me, what I would do with methadone was I would abuse it really bad. So with Suboxone, I just got on it. I started taking it as prescribed and doing what I was supposed to be doing. Now I'm not going to lie, y'all. The first 6 months to a year of my recovery, I struggled with taking more than I was supposed to. But even if I took more, it didn't do anything. Like, I was wasting it, and I would run out of my prescription early. But there was one thing that I changed right away when I started Suboxone. I started getting really honest, and I started telling my counselor, like, yo, I can't stop wanting to take more. And she would, because I was honest and told her, like, I'm struggling, I'm trying to take more of my medication, and it's not even doing anything, but I think it does. And I really just got honest and started telling her about everything that I would think about. And then I was still struggling. Like, I would get called in and they would count my medication and it would be off, you know? And but I just finally, like, it just got to a point where I was like, I got to stop doing this. And I just started getting myself more regulated. It just took time for me to get myself on track and to get myself into the habit and learn not to overtake my medication. But for me, like, with a Suboxone, you would have to try, for a person to get high on Suboxone, they have to not take it for days and let it get out of their system. So I'm just not willing to go through that. And I don't want to get high on my Suboxone. Like, I want to live my life in recovery.
Yeah, we just got back from Chick-fil-A.
I want to be a better person, you know? And so I just choose to not to do that. And so Suboxone has really given me the opportunity to build my recovery and to stay on the right track. Who's that?
Mama.
What's she doing?
She just wanted to make sure we knew it snowed.
Look at Neil, y'all. That's my husband. Say hi, Neil.
Hello.
Okay. But it's snowing at the house. I'm going to go out there with Nathaniel and look at the snow. I am going to go over to Jason's channel now and watch his live stream. I hope you guys really enjoyed that story time. And if you have any questions when this video goes up, just comment your questions down below. And I will do a live stream tonight at 5:45. And I will answer all your questions. Okay. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, everybody, for coming over. I love y'all and I hope you have a good day.